to work. Out here in 25 minutes. All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Nun Ches Noach. So we left off the bottom of Nun Zayin at base, still continuing with the discussion of items that are to do with the 3 weeks, right? The Churban. So Amar Rechana Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Bottom line of Nun Zayin at base is Rechana in the name of Rabbi Yechanan. Arba'im Sa Kitzutze. Tefillin nimtzu b'reishei harugei beitar. Right, they found 40 saw of casings of boxes of tefillin that were found of those who were murdered in Beitar. Rabbi Yana, Rabbi Yishmael, Omer shlesh kupos shel arba'im saw. There were 3 boxes of 40 each. Right, 120. Rasisatana arba'im kupos shel shlosh saw. You know, there were 40 boxes of 3 each, also 120. One is referring to that of the head, and the other is the ones by the arm. The ones of the head, I guess, were larger, and therefore those, that's why there was, obviously every person has, one of each, so that's why the ones that the ones for the head was 120 versus the one that was 40. And Amar Rabasi Arboim. There were 4 kav of brain that were found upon one. People were murdered and the head smashed upon a rock. And it was 9 kav in Amarav Kahana. Bar Mari. So Ma'ikra, what's the passage? It says Bas Baba Hashdura Ashe Shashlim Lecha Shalem Lecha Shalem Lach. So it says over there that, right? So the pasuk says, right, that those above El, in other words, pay back. We should go ahead and pay them back and smash their heads. So obviously, if we're saying the payback is smashing their heads, it means that they were the ones who were smashing the heads of the Jews. And pasuk says, "Bnei Tzion hayikarim hamusalaim b'paz." So it says those of Tzion were adorned in certainly the past. If you're saying that the Jews were basically covered with paz, which is like a beautiful stone, they were like basically 2 handfuls, right? 2 scoops of paz that are placed in the world. One was given in Rome, that was the rest of the world. So most of the paz is not in Eretz Yisrael, right? Most of the paz was in Rome. El Shayu Maginas Apaz. Rather, the those, right, who the Jews, right, the Beitar, they basically outshine the Paz, right? Meikar Chashiv de Rami Havi Naked Bluye the Gush Afanka Ushamshi Arsai. The beginning, I guess those who were the Chashubi of Rome, the aristocrats of Rome, they used to go ahead and basically look at this fine image upon their signet rings, which was made of paz, to see the beauty before they had relations. However, but after that, they saw the beauty of the young Jews. They said, "Oh, these are even more beautiful than this paz." Therefore, they tied them to their beds, and then they would look at the Bnei Israel, right, the sons of Israel, and then they would go ahead and be v'shamish mitas. And so one of the victims, they turned to his friend and says, "Oh, hey, where do you see this pasuk, this punishment that we're suffering?" Right, the pasuk in the Teichah, it says over there, even all the punishments that were not written in the Torah. So how much further? I didn't get to this pasuk. How much further is this pasuk? Where could I find this pasuk? Right, another column and a half. So if I would have got to that pasuk, I would have been able to understand the pshat of that pasuk to say punishments like this. And Rabbi Shmuel says, Rabbi Shmuel, Meshuvim Gamliel, my dechsi, what does the pasuk mean? So it says over there, right, that I guess regarding the pains that they see from watching the daughters of Israel. So Arba Meyos Bate Knisias Ebekrach Beitar. There were 400 Bate Knisias in the city of Beitar. Kol achas v'achas hayu bohen Arba Meas Malavdi Tinaikas, and each one had 400 teachers who taught the children. They had large classes. Each one of these 400 teachers had 400 students. When the Romans came to fight them, they were trying to fight them off with their sticks. And then when the Romans finally took control of they started taking of the battle, then they basically wrapped them up in their svarim, right, in the scrolls, and they set them on fire. 2 dots. Third last medium line. The sick thing was it wasn't just then. This has happened 70, 80 years ago. So talking about a sitting in Rome. So they said there's a certain young lad. He's locked up in jail. He's beautiful to look at. A nice payas, right? Beautiful eyes. So halach so he went to go ahead and check it out. He went to the jail. So Amar mi natan shisa Yaakov v'Yisrael b'Yizim. So it says, right? Who what is the reason why Bnei Yisrael is suffering such punishments? So Ana Isa Tinosh, this young child who was being held, locked up, he answered, "V'Amar, I Halo Hashem Zechatanu Lo V'Avad V'Drachav Halach V'Lo Yishav B'Torasa." It says over there that this is for our sins that we did not follow the ways of Hashem. We did listen to His Torah. So Omar says, Rabbi Shimon Chananya, Muftachani Bosh Shemara Hayra B'Yisrael. Right. So he says, it appears to me that this young child will grow up and he will teach to the masses. And Avada, my goodness, Shani Zaz Mikan, right? He basically said, made a vow, Shani Zaz Mikan. Ashiftenim Mikol Mamon Shapaisun Alav. And says, I'll do it. I'm not going to leave here until I see somehow whatever way is to go ahead and redeem him. And Amr, he said, he did not leave there until they collected enough money to go ahead and redeem him. It wasn't too many days. It wasn't too long. It wasn't too many days until eventually that it did come true, and he began to teach to the masses. Umanu, and who was this child who became this a great rabbi? Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. It was Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. Fourth wide line. There was a Maisa, the son and daughter of Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha, Shenishbu, Shnei Adainim. Right, they were taken captive by 2 different masters, Roman masters. The Yamim days went on. These 2 masters, each one on the boy, one on the girl. They're in the b'makom echad. They're at the same event. They're together. This one slave is no one is as beautiful as him. I have a shivcha, no one is beautiful as her. Some are above in the same. Why don't we go ahead and put them together? And then we'll go ahead. We'll have many children, and we'll take the beautiful children. So they put them into a room. They locked them up. Right? He said in one corner, she said in the other corner. One of them said, he said, "Ani Kohen ben Kohanim Gedolim Eses Shivcha." Right? I'm the Kohen, the son of a Kohen Gadol. I'm going to go ahead and marry a Shivcha. And she said, "Right? Ani Kohenes Bas Kohanim Gedolim." And then a Kohenes is Bas Gedolim, and they said, "I should go ahead and marry an Eved." So basically, he stayed in his corner. She stayed in her corner. They didn't, cross paths. They cried the entire night. Came once the morning came, all of a sudden they recognized when the light came, when they saw each other, they realized they were siblings. Right? Then they cried, that they embraced them and cried upon one another. Until their souls departed. Yirmiyah about them. Yirmiyah laments. So it says for these I cry, for the bitterness of the tears that run from my eyes. There was Maisa with a certain woman. Her name was Tzafnas Bas Peniel Shema. Tzafnas, she called it Tzayfim B'Yafeh. Right, they would call it Tzafnas because everyone would be Tzayfet. They would gaze at her beauty, and Bas Peniel, and they call it Bas Peniel. Bita Shekohen Gadol Sheshimesh Lifnei Chludim. Because Bas Peniel, because she was the daughter of the Kohen Gadol who served inside the Kodesh Kodashim. So she was taken captive, and the guy, the captor, he violated her the entire night. The next day, Helvisha Shiva Chalukim, he put upon her seven robes, right? Seven clothings. The Mechan, he wanted to go ahead and sell her. Adam Echad Shahaya Mechura B'Yaser. Some man came who was disgusting looking, probably boils, whatever. Let me see her, disrobe her, and let me see her beauty. Reika, empty one. Right? If you want to go ahead and buy. I'm just telling you, right? There is no one as beautiful as her. So he said back to him, he removed six of her robes, the shvi, and the seventh one, karasa v'nispalsha b'yafar. She went ahead and she tore it off, and she rolled right in the mud, in the earth, to show basically her sufferings. And Amar lefana ribono shayla imalena lechasta kudusha shemecha hagibor lama tachus. Right? If you don't, right, you're not worried about us, right? At least worry about your holy name, right? Because we're part of the Jewish people who are attached to your name. About this, Yirmiyah lamented. Basami chag v'sak, right? She was wearing sackcloth. Right? These pal should be offer or be'efer, right? That she was in the ashes or the dust of al yachid asali mispat timrurim kipita yavo hashaydet aleinu. So it says over there, because this fell upon us, aleinu. All the sufferings fell upon us. Alechaloi never doesn't say you, the Jewish people, rather ella aleinu. Kavyachol alive Allah. All right. In other words, basically, you and me together. Kavyachol right. But no, this punishment came upon you and me. So it wasn't just her. It was also, she's saying that Hashem, you should also have pity upon not only us but even also upon your name. And Amar Yidom Rav, my dechsiros basmin. It says the Ashku Gever Vesa V'Ishav Anachaso. Right, they go ahead and oppress a man in his household, right? A man in his inheritance. So there's a certain person. He set his eyes, upon his employers. Right. So he set his eyes upon his employer. Right. He worked for him. Wife. Right. Well, yeah. Excuse me. Right. The Isha, the wife of his employer. And he wanted to go ahead and he wanted to get her. So one time he was looking for a loan. The master, right, the employer was looking to borrow money. Go ahead, send your wife to me, and I'll give her the money. She'll bring it back to you. So he sent his wife. 3 days, she never returned. So the employer went to this guy, right? The guy who was supposed to send his wife to borrow money. My wife, she got to the Hey, Chani, where's my? Have you seen my wife? Sent her 3 days ago. So Ani Patrice on the altar. He says, let me tell you, I sent her away right away. I gave her the money and she went away. But I heard I heard she was basically violated, or she had some fun with some tinaikas. In a way, and that's probably why she hasn't returned home for 3 days. So the employer said to his employee, what should I do? You want my advice? Gersha, go ahead and divorce her. So said the employer back to the guy who, right, he borrowed money. Her ksuba was a lot. I can't really afford the divorce. So he says, I'll go ahead and I'll lend you the money. I'll lend you the money. Then you be able to take that money to be able to pay off her ksuba, and then you divorce her. So Ahmad said, so he listened to his advice, he took the money, Vigirsha, and he divorced her. And right? So he went ahead, he borrowed the money, and Kevan Shagia Zmano, and then the other one married her, right? And Kevan Shagia Zmano of Loya Lapiro. No, the employee, right? He was the employee of this employer who he borrowed money from. So he ended up. Right, he gave the advice to divorce her so he could marry her, right? And then now he owed him money because he lent him money for the ksuba, and now time came to pay back, and he couldn't go ahead and pay him back. So hello, instead of paying me back, you'll work for me. Right, so now he's switching. Now the employer, right, is working for the employee. And this employee who now turned to basically the employer, right? He would sit with his new wife, and they would basically eat, drink, and basically, have a good time watching the other guy slave away. And tears were going down his eyes. The guy took his business. The guy took his wife. And at that moment, that's when the Gzar Din says enough of the way the Jews are behaving. And some say it was because of, I guess, the Arias, right? This one there is one woman who was, with two of the men that she, I guess, committed adultery. That's another reason. So fine. Two dots in the bottom. So now that was the Gemaras had to do with the Churban. So if you remember, Sikrukin was the person, perhaps his life was endangered. He went ahead and he sold the land to a other Kachavim. Perhaps he did not go ahead and really intend to go ahead and do it. So if one goes and buys the land for the Kachavim, perhaps he needs to go ahead and return the land to the original owner or pay him the amount that he really, gave to a discount to the other Kachavim. So so we talked about if he went ahead and he bought it from the guy first, and then he bought it from the Jew. There's din. But if he paid the Jew first, the original owner, and then he went to the Sikrukin and he made a deal with him, then he keep the land. So that which we say he went to the other person. If he told this guy, he says, "Oh, you ready to buy for the Sikrukin? Okay, go ahead and buy it." But if he gave him an actual star, right, the original owner, right, gave the buyer, right? There's three people involved, right? There's the original owner, there's the other Kachavim, and then there's the buyer. The guy's buying for the other Kachavim, right? But if the original owner it gives the star, says, hey, to the buyer, then kana. It says, no, even with the star, it's not effective until he writes Bachrayas, that you can keep it, and I give you 100% money guarantee. At Tanik Masad in Shul, we have a Bryce in support of Shmuel, who says that Sheyichla b'Achrayis, not just a star. Because says Rabbi Shimon, the same thing we said, if a person buys land from a woman, if he buys for the husband first, then the wife, we're concerned that perhaps the wife is just trying to go ahead and appease her husband, does not really want to go ahead and sell the land. So if one goes and buys it for the woman first, then it is a good sale. However, but if he buys it first from the husband, then from the wife, we say that it does not work. The ksuba, right, belong to that, right. They were going towards the ksuba, but then it was bato because they say maybe she just did it to appease her husband. Unless he writes until she writes that the achrayis that I guarantee this land is yours. So name it to have you to the Rav. Says Kashan Rav, some Rav, my achrayis not ishtar. What does it mean? Achrayis doesn't mean that mamish achrayis. It just means that a star. If she gave him a star to the buyer, then it's as good as if then we know that she was willing to go ahead and sell the land. So Taner Rabbanan, Lokach min asikrukin the achla shleishanim shnei baalim. So one who goes ahead and purchases it from the sikrukin, right, from the chavim, and then he is using the land for 3 years. Buyer number one is using the land for 3 years. The chazer machal acher, and then he sells it to buyer number two. Ein labalim alokech sheni klum. The owner, the original owner, got any claims against buyer number two that he owes money.
So the guy developed chazaka.
But he was on it for 3 years, and he didn't stop him at all. So we assume that he's on it for 3 years. That the payment, so we saw it in the Mishnah, you'll be reminded soon, there was a quarter payment, usually was a discount that Sikrukim were able to get, right? They give me this deal, and the guy says, okay, fine, I'll give it to you a discount, no problem, 25% off, or 33% off, we'll say, I'll give you money off. So we're assuming because the buyer's on land for 3 years, he must have given the 25% to the original owner.
That's the kind of these
so right. So that is what the chazaka creates. We assume that was done. Now, so we're saying the owner has nothing on buyer number 2. So what's going on with buyer number 2? Why not buyer number 1? So if he says, hey, I paid you, buyer number 2 is saying, hey, I gave you the money, right? Owner. So if you're the Rishonami, even the first guy will be believed to say I paid the money because he's been on the land for 3 years. It was no sort of mocha. And he delayed katai. If he didn't make a claim and says I paid you, he says I didn't pay you, right? Right? Then he says, well, then if the second one you have to go ahead and pay them the discount if no one else paid him. He didn't make any claim. We have a claim that normally based in goes into effect, and they become the sort of the lawyer for people who inherit stuff or people that buy. In other words, why? Because they don't have information that was the previous owner, right? They don't know their father's dealings. They don't know the seller's dealings. So therefore, Beis Din can make a claim on their behalf. So therefore, Beis Din makes a claim. Buyer number 2 has no idea what happened between buyer number 1 and the original owner. He has no idea. But Beis Din can come and make a claim on buyer number 2's behalf that you must have been paid by buyer number 1 because there was a chazak. But if it was only buyer number 1, if the guy says, yes, I paid you the 25%, then we do believe him. Below, and if he says, I didn't pay him, then then we don't make a claim that he must have paid because he was there for 3 years. Even if he was out there for 10 years, but he said he never made any payments, you'd have to go ahead and pay him the 25% that he owed to the original owner. Fine, 2 dots. So let's say the Sikrukin, wanted to buy the land, whether it was for a debt that was owed to him or for no reason, but there was no actual risk of death. Ein bo mishum sikrukin, right? There is no sikrukin in this situation. Now, as it says, someone buys land, then that we don't say that he can go ahead and basically keep it and just give 25% to the original owner. Rather, it must have been taken away from the Jew. The anparios atzma tzricha shitasha shnei masar chodesh. And if it was for nothing, then it has to remain at least, for 12 months. We give the opportunity to the original owners. The Gemara says, you said there's no sikrukin in this case. Say in general, when there is a halacha of sikrukin, then we give the original owner up to 12 months, right? If he doesn't go ahead and buy within 12 months, then the buyer can go ahead and just give him his 25%. But if he does go ahead and you give him the opportunity to go ahead for 12 months, and if someone else buys it, then he has to go ahead and give the original owner the land. But if he doesn't do it, it's the 12-month mark. That's the amount that the new buyer can keep it and just give the 25% to the Jew. And there is no Paris Bavel. In other words, any time a person sold his land to Avik Chavim, we assume that he wanted to go ahead and sell the land, and therefore there is no claim that this is my land. But we do say this common. So Ema ain't din on Paris Bavel. In other words, we say that there is no din on Paris. My time, since there's the normal court, all right. So we say that since there's a court and he didn't go there and complain that this guy took the land, right? And the court would be able to go ahead and put the land back in his name and then go ahead and make a claim. Then he was mad. So Gidal bar Eloi. So Gidal bar Eloi. So what did he do? Kibel Arab Taska Mibnei of Baga. So Gidal bar Eloi, there was a certain co-op, right? There was sort of almost like a co-op, and he decided to go ahead, and there was one of the owners there, and he wasn't around for a field, and he says, you know what, I'll pay the taxes for his portion, and I'll be in effect the owner of that piece of land, of that portion. And he was so generous, he gave Cook County, right, 3 years of prepaid taxes. Now, it's not only to pay for that year, he paid 2 additional years. So guess what happened? The Saif Asa Marbasa Kamai, the original owner, came back after a year. Samarlei, Shasa Kamaisa, okay, so the first year you had the produce, you paid for it, and therefore you got the produce because you paid the taxes, you were able to keep it. So okay, that's yours. However, Hashan Yavina and Anachlina. But now I'm back, so I'm going to now go back to what it was before. I will pay the tax every year, and I will go ahead and use the land. The guy says, what do you mean? I prepaid for 3 years. So has to come into Rav Papa. So he gave Rav Papa. So he wanted to go ahead and write in order for him to go ahead and collect it from the other people, basically that they owe him the money. So Rav Huna, Rav Papa, right? If that's the case, basically, in essence, you made this into a case of sikrukin because you're trying to go ahead and give this guy as if he owned the land. You go ahead and you prepay your taxes that weren't due yet, right? That's like you put your money on the horns of a deer, right? It's going to run away, the money's going to fly off. So to over here, no money was owed to you. It wasn't your land to go ahead. That now, if someone else goes ahead and use it, that they have to pay you back. There is no reimbursement to you, and therefore you lost the money. And Zom Mishnah Rishona based on Zom Mishnah Rishona. This is the Mishnah Rishona we talked about. However, based on Shachrein Amru Halakeach and Sikrukin nice and the Balam Review. One goes ahead and Sikrukin. Go ahead, buy it. We want to go ahead and buy land. We don't want people to say, "Oh, it was originally Jews. I don't want to buy it." And no one ends up buying it, and it remains with a chavim. We encourage them to buy it, and therefore, even if that's 12 months, just go ahead and pay the quarter to the original owner. And Amarav says, Rav, Ravia bekarka or Ravia b'mos. So that which we say a quarter means whether it's quarter of land or a quarter of money, but however, it's a quarter of the purchase price, and therefore, basically, so if it was $100, right? So therefore, you got to go ahead and pay, right? You go ahead and you pay, right? You pay $25, which is a quarter of the 100, right? So therefore, it's 25. Basically, it cost, the value was 125, or now because he pays it back. You got the guy got 100 from the other chavim, and he got 25 from the buyer. So it's really a fifth, right? A fifth of the value. Ushmul Amar Ravia Bikarka Shein Shlish Mos. No. You go ahead. He was paid 100. You pay 33. You pay 33. So what does it mean? Ravia, it's a quarter. It means a quarter of the value. The value was 133, and therefore you are paying, right? You pay 33. So by commitment, what's my challah here? My saver and the chiriva zavin. My saver and the chichom shayzavin. Right? One holds that it ends up being 25%. Right? 33 out of 133 is a quarter. And the other one says no. Right? It's a fifth. In other words, you take off a fifth. It was 80%. Therefore, it was worth 125. You only paid 100. So therefore, if it gets 125, that's only 20%, not 25%. So meisve asukasha. So Mishmashana based in Shachreim. But the based on Achreim says, halakech min sikrukin nice in the balam revia. You go ahead, you buy from the sikrukin, then you have to go ahead and give the original owners 25%. The yad balam alayena. And the hand of the owners is on top. You know, as Ratz Bakar, if they want land, they take land, Ratz Muz, want cash, then Naitam. A Masai, when does Man Shem Biyad Likach? That's only when they don't have the money to go ahead and pay it. But if they do have the original owner has money to go ahead and buy it, and then we allow them to buy it and go ahead and buy it first. And Rabbi Haishiv, and Rabbi says on top of this, Haishiv base of an Imno Shim Shasa Bifnei Sikrukin Shnei Masar Chaydish is buy the Sikrukin for 12 months. Kol hakaydam likach zacha. All right, whoever wants to go ahead and buy it, please go ahead and buy it. About naisen labalim revi bekarko revi b'mos. But you go ahead and you buy 25% of the purchase price, which you can do it in land or in cash. Which means that if it was 100, then you pay 25, not 33. So there's a kasha on Shmuel. So Ravashi kitanyahi liacher shabo mos liyada means that which we say 25%. It could be maybe 25% at the end. Maybe he gives him 30, he gives him 33, which in the end is 25% of the entire value, and therefore it's not a kasha. And Amar Rav, which gets at the top of the page, but Amar Rav, we could go down to Mishnah, but we'll just, tomorrow's Friday, a little short day. So Amar Rav says, Rav, Rabbi, I was once in the corner of Rabbi, and Rav said they started with me. I'm on a Bereisha, and they asked me to give my first in the beginning. We learned Dini Mamas Vataras Vatumas Maschim and a Goggle. You start with the top one. You start with Rebbe. It was Rebbe's court, not Rav, right? You start with the top one. Only Dini Nefashos Maschim Asad. And Dini Nefashos, then you start from the lowers, not the top. Some Rabbi Berei Derab, Abitim Rabbi Hillel Berei Derevalos. Shani minyana the Bei Rebbe the kula minyana min atzad. All the cases of Rebbe, they would also, they would always start from the lower ones. Havi maschin. That's where they start from, and they wouldn't go ahead and start from Rebbe in that case. All right, we'll stop here. So tomorrow, we will continue, and everyone have a wonderful day. Shkaya.